But welcome back to the Simply Aroma Ongoing Consultant Training Program. Last week we talked about sponsoring, and I gave you several more tools to help you build your team by sharing your opportunity. Hopefully you've listened to that training and you've done the call to action homework. This week we're going to talk about one of the most important areas in your direct sales business, making phone calls. Now, no matter how good you are at working your business live and in person and getting bookings from your parties, you're going to be spending a percentage of time every week making phone calls to follow up with new and existing leads and team members and hosts. Today I'd like to support you in this area so that you have a plan as you step into making phone calls in the hopes that we'll make this easier. I'll tell you totally honestly, this isn't my favorite part of my job, and I've rarely met anyone who loves to make phone calls. It probably won't be your favorite part of your job either, but it's certainly important. To begin with, create a list of who you're going to call. Now this will obviously depend upon what types of calls you're making. For our purposes today, I'd like to assume that you're making follow-up calls with either booking or sponsoring leads, because these really do tend to be the most challenging calls to make. Your list could consist of previous guests and hosts, those who've expressed an interest in what you're offering, and those whom you've promised to follow up with. Make a goal to call at least 10 people on your list. If you get a voicemail and you have to leave a message, I recommend giving as few details as possible. See, the less you tell them, the more curious they're going to be and the more likely they'll be to actually call you back. It's appropriate to say something like, "Hey Kathy, it's Julianne Jones. We met the other night at Carolyn's party and I have a quick question for you. Could you give me a call back when you get a chance?" And then leave your phone number. Now I want to talk for a moment here about follow-up. I'm often asked the question, for how long or how often should I follow up? This is without a doubt the key to success or failure for you as a direct seller. Without a consistent plan for following up with current hosts and representatives on your team, with potential hosts and recruit leads, and also with those whom you've met in the past, you'll very quickly find that your business is drying up. They say that the fortune is in the follow-up, and I know that that's true. I want to give you my follow-up philosophy first, and it's very simple. I follow up until the person I'm calling tells me to stop, period. That means if you've called every week for 3 weeks and they haven't answered or returned your call, you keep following up. Now, you're going to tell yourself that the person doesn't want to talk to you, or that she's sitting at home looking at her caller ID and choosing not to answer, or that she hates you. You can't believe this. It's a lie that you're telling yourself. The truth is, if you've been calling and you can't get in touch with someone, it's usually never about you. Sorry. It generally means they're too busy, or they've lost the message, they never got the message. That's why you keep following up. This is a diagram of how and when I followed up and what I would say. It's self-explanatory, but I do want to go through it. First of all, if at any point in this system you actually reach the person that you're calling, you're going to do one of 3 things. They'll either take the action that you're calling about, and then they'll come off of your follow-up list, obviously. They'll book a party, they'll say yes to your opportunity, whatever. They'll say that they aren't ready to make a decision, at which point you're going to ask if it's okay if you continue to follow up and keep them on your list. If they say yes, then you put them back on the list. If they're not interested, then you can remove them from your list. If they don't answer, you're leaving messages though. And so this diagram should help. There's also a copy of this for you to post in your office as a reminder that you can download from the Simply Aroma website. The first time you call, you leave a simple message. "It was great to meet you. I'm looking forward to chatting. Here's my number so you can give me a call back as soon as you get the chance." The second message that you leave about a week later lets them off the hook a bit. So, "Hey, I left a message last week, but I'm sure you're busy, so I thought I'd just call back. I'd still love to chat with you when you get a chance. Here's my number so you can give me a call back." Now the third week, if you still haven't spoken with them, you leave a different type of message. "Hey, we haven't been able to connect. I'm sure that you're just as busy as I am. I would really love to visit with you, and here's my number if you want to give me a call back. My follow-up philosophy is to continue following up with you until we connect. If you would rather that I take you off of my follow-up list, just shoot me an email and give her your email address, or give me a call back and let me know, and I'll take you off my list so that I don't bother you in the future. I'm looking forward to chatting with you very soon. Now that way, you're giving them an out if they want to take it. If they don't email or call and ask to be taken off of your list, it means that they still want to hear from you. Then you're going to want to call about once a month after that. Every time reiterating your follow-up philosophy so that the person you're calling can opt out of your list if they choose to. Here's the thing. After a few months, you're probably going to feel really challenged and you're going to want to make excuses for not calling. It's easy to start making assumptions about why that person hasn't called you back. The truth is, you have no idea what's going on in their lives, and you've given them the out if they want you to stop calling. So if they don't contact you and tell you to stop, you have to assume they still want to hear from you and that the timing just hasn't been right for them to follow up with yet. If you keep following up, you're going to be the one who's there when the time is right for them. This is a bit of a feel uncomfortable and do it anyhow moment for you. So let's move on to your actual system. Now the key to becoming a follow-up superstar is to make sure you call every single time you promise yourself or someone else that you will. The only way to make sure that happens is to have a simple, clear system. There are some key questions that you need to ask yourself about your system to make sure that it's actually working for you. Number 1, will you utilize the system that you've chosen? Second, is it user-friendly and does it fit into your life and the way that you do business? I used a week-at-a-glance paper calendar for years, all through college and into my adult life, and it worked beautifully for me. But once I embraced the electronic world and I realized I really was comfortable with all things electronic, I started using Outlook Online as my home calendar, and it really became labor-intensive transferring everything into a paper calendar to take it with me. So an electronic calendar seemed like it made more sense. Now I started with an actual Palm Pilot that synced with Outlook, and then I upgraded to a Palm Trio phone that did the same thing. And then a few years ago when I switched to a Mac, I upgraded to an iPhone because it really works seamlessly with iCal on my Mac. So take a look at what you're currently using and figure out if it's the most efficient way to do things. If it is, that's great. If it's not, consider an upgrade. And finally, is it reliable? The most important thing about a follow-up system is that you can rely on it every single time to remind you to follow up. You have to be sure you understand the system and will follow the steps that you set up, or no follow-up system is going to work for you. I'd like to outline 3 different types of systems. All are very effective, and some people even combine all of them really effectively. The key is to make sure whatever system you choose meets all of these criteria. Let's start with the most simple system, and I call it the index card system. The main difference between this system and the other 2 is that it's strictly a follow-up system and it's not a calendar. It's only designed to keep track of your follow-up commitments, so you're going to have a separate calendar system to keep track of your schedule, and some people really prefer that. The actual equipment for this system is very simple. You're going to need an expandable file with slots numbered 1 through 31 and some index cards. Now when you make a commitment to follow up with someone, either by telling them you'll follow up or by deciding that you'd like to do that on your own, let's say, you simply take a clean 3x5 index card and write all of their information on the card, name, address, phone number, etc., and a short note about why you're following up. And then drop that card behind the slot for the numerical date that you need to make the call. So if we're talking on the 5th and I say I'll follow up in a few weeks, I go to the 19th or the 20th and I drop the card in that slot. Then every day, as you begin your day, you're checking the corresponding numerical slot for that day, and also for the 2 days before if it's a Monday, and making calls to whomever you've placed in that day's slot. You make the call, make whatever notes that you need to make, whether you reach them or you don't, and then if you're continuing to follow up, and you are if you haven't reached them, right, you want to drop that card into the slot for the next date that you've planned to follow up. Make sure that you note the month on the card, since this is really a 31-day system, and you pick up a card that's marked May 14th and it's the 14th of April, you simply drop that back into the slot and you wait for it to come back around again the next month. The second system is an actual paper calendar system, and you can choose a simple at-a-glance calendar, which is what I used from my freshman year in college until I went to electronic about 10 years ago. I really liked the week at a glance because you could see your entire week laid out, and also there's plenty of room to write on each day with a paper calendar. And that's important because you're going to be keeping track of not just appointments, but also people with whom you're going to be following up. You can keep their information in a separate address book or system if you want to, but you're still going to need room to write their name on the date that you want to follow up. With this system, you turn to the date in your calendar when you want to follow up, and you write that person's name and a few details about the call. Once the call is complete, you'll go to the next follow-up date and make a new note to follow up. I recommend that you note the previous date that you followed up so that you can look back at any notes regarding that call. You can also keep notes in your address book under each person's contact information. Now, you may also prefer a physical organizer. It's a lot more complex, and you can have your address book and your calendar all in one place. I've also used this system. In some cases, you'll even have your credit cards, checkbook, that kind of thing. The system for using an organizer is the same, and I recommend the week at a time pages here as well. The final system is the electronic system. The most common is Outlook if you use a PC, and you can also use that on Mac now, Mail and iCal on the Mac, and increasingly Google Calendar as well. The key to these systems is they're designed to keep all of your electronic devices synced so that your calendar and your follow-up notes follow you from computer to phone to iPad or Android notebook. There's a lot to be said for that in our increasingly virtual world. I really love the electronic system because I'm auditory, and it gives me the ability to set up an auditory reminder. Ding ding! I rarely ever miss an appointment or a note to follow up because of this. In Outlook, you can set up your contacts, you can create reminders, you can flag for each contact, you can keep notes in the note section of the contact form, and you can sync all of this together with your email and your calendar. It's a great system, and as I said, you can now get it for Mac as well as PC. I don't have time to teach you a complete lesson on setting up your electronic system, but I have found all of these systems to be extremely user-friendly, so just get in, get started poking around, you'll figure it out. You can also use YouTube and Google to get free tutorials for any system that you decide to use. We've covered quite a bit of information this week, and you actually have 3 action steps to take before you move on to next week's video. Create a master call list, decide which follow-up system you're going to use, and set up your follow-up system. Next week, we're going to be talking about planning tools for your business and keeping the balance between your work and your personal life. I'll talk with you then.